So let's just talk about how this kind of religious thing help us. And everybody says that we need some kind of proof that things are working, things not. So I think some of you might have heard this long time ago that we talked about it. But there is now very recent field, which is not recent anymore, actually now almost 15 years now, new field of neurotheology. It means explaining all these kind of religious experiences that we have. Based on that, is there any proof that it has altered our brain? And because to know all this, to change our thinking and other thing, we need to change something in our mind and brain. And nobody has found where this thing in the brain is. So it explains neurologic basis for our religious experiences. And these religious experiences could be many, many different ways. It may be, many times it is a spiritual awe that we have. That we say, oh, what? We see big temples, or we see big kind of idols, or we kind of listen to some kind of music or kirtan, and then we get different feeling. So what actually happens with those? And there are more and more involvement of Hinduism in actually these kind of these experiences, because we have many different ways of kind of thinking about God or spirituality. Not just one way. There, somebody will meditate, somebody will sing bhajans or kirtan, somebody will go ahead and light a diva, or somebody will listen to something. So all these things are very different in Hinduism, different ways of doing it. So there is definitely some relationship that our rishis had seen, that doing any of some of these kind of religious things alters something in the brain. So we are going to talk more about in this country, because we are in this country and we say, okay, so yeah, God, but if you will not believe. This was a little bit older slide, but the new one also recently, more than 80% of US population believes in something higher, and we call it God, but somebody will say God, somebody will say some power or something, but more than 80% believe in them. You will not like to say it is God or this person or this thing. And then more important thing is, people do pray in their own way. More than 2/3 people pray. Now they may pray by doing different things, not the way we think prayer, and they think that prayer helps or alters things in their life. So how does that thing can get into our brain? The prayer or chanting or things like that. And I wanted to just separate out two things. We are talking about actually kind of religion. The second thing people actually think all the time is actually spirituality and religion being the same thing, but they are not same thing. There is some overlap, but biggest kind of difference you have to think about, religion is an organized thing of group of people, while spirituality is an individual experience. You don't have to have anybody else with you. For the religion, you need to have many people get together. And that's the biggest thing that kind of you can think about. And so if you have separate way of doing this, we say, okay, I am a spiritual guy, and many people will say that without saying that I am a religious guy. And that is possible. That's equally possible to have two separate things, but at the same time, you can be both. You can be religious and you can also be spiritual. So the first time this thing happened when the religion came into science, and if you go and see in these countries' constitution, church and politics separate. You cannot mix religion with anything else. And that came a long time ago, where they thought that religion and science, they cannot coexist. That science is different, religion is different. If you don't believe in science, you believe in religion. If you believe in religion, you don't believe in science. But then, in this country at least, around 2011, a big shift started to occur, where they said that no, this is not actually kind of mutually exclusive. one thing depends on other, and at the same time, one thing can alter the other thing. It can change the other thing. It went into general public. Scientific American is not a scientific research journal. It is more of an actually magazine for kind of general kind of population. And it had this thing in the front page. Was searching for God in the brain, because we all like to know. We think, we feel something. What do we feel? We feel things in the brain. Okay, where is that God spot? You know what? Where the spot is there in the brain that make you think about God? Because we think and we say, okay, this part of the brain is important for thinking. So where is that part that you think about God? Now, if you are, ordinary person that goes out and just eats donuts and drinks beer, your brain will have so many other things going around that there is hardly any spot left for God, right? It was a very small, tiny little spot. Is that the God spot? I mean, because they're hidden behind all these different things. But that's not there. I mean, there is a spot, people think, maybe there is something in the brain, that area that where we think about God. And in 2008, there was an article in New England Journal of Medicine that showed, based on certain things, that we think it may be here, but we don't 100% know exactly what spot it is. But that certain part of the brain we think about God. Now, if you find that spot, the angels will be really upset at you that you put now God in your head and not up in heaven. That's another thing. But this is from the actual first year medical school, different parts of the brain. I don't have to tell you all these different parts. And these are, I'm a GI guy, I forgot all these different things exist in the brain. I know cerebrum, and that's it. Maybe not, actually Ramesh Bhai knows more about it, brain thing than me. But so this is too much for me to know but each part does different things, We have either fixed different thing or makes us do different thing. So the part that was not shown on the other part is autonomic nervous system, which is diffused, which is throughout, and maybe that part has something to do with this kind of thinking about brain, thinking about God. And so for a kind of simple thing, on just for kind of theology, we can just have brain into 4 different lobes. Frontal lobe, there is at the green part, it's for like attention, focusing, planning. But that part people have shown to change during meditation. So that something maybe have to do with the frontal lobe. Second is parietal lobe. There is more for kind of actually spatial thing that take time and space kind of thing that we do. Know where we are, how far things are, all those different things. Maybe something is affecting that part during this chanting or something, and then that may kind of affect your brain. Temporal lobe, and last one is occipital lobe. Now, our occipital lobe is the smallest one, but that has been studied the most because it has been easy to study that part. The small part, only one sensory input, and therefore people have done what happens when you see, say, actual idol of God, or when you do Devo, you see the light and what happens to you, things like that. So how can we assess these changes when we do any kind of actually religious kind of practice? So there are different ways to test it, because we will like the proof. So these are how can we prove things. So first thing is you see the changes that can occur. So what kind of changes we can see? So first is very difficult to find subjective changes. Somebody will say, if I chant, I feel better. Well, that's a very, very subjective thing. So, but we can still kind of look at it. What can happens to you before and after certain kind of religious activity? The second thing, if you want to look objectively, you can check, and people have done this kind of studies to see change in your heart rate, respiratory rate, blood pressure, temperature, skin response, oxygen metabolism. You can check this before and after religious experience and see how they change. Immune function studies, neurotransmitter studies, all this has been done. If you want to really look, people have done EEG to see any change in the brain waves and see what happens when you do certain things. Now, since 2010, 2012, people have started kind of working with MRI, and not just anatomical MRI, but the functional MRI, where you actually can see how the what kind of changes occur in the actual function of the brain. Now, usually it is based on change in the blood flow in that area, and you can see along with anatomical part also. So I mean, when you do functional MRI, you have an MRI, you can see the structure of the brain and also change in function. The problem with this is, to do this, you have to be in an MRI machine, and if you go in there and you are going to do functional MRI, sometimes the noise could be up to 100 decibel in that part. And if you want to study the effect of, say, kind of concentration or chanting or something, you cannot do it while you are in that small space with all these things happening, and you cannot concentrate, you cannot see like bhajan or something and see what happened or things like that. So it has some kind of problem that we cannot do everything in kind of functional MRI. The one that helps more is the PET or the SPECT scanning, because you don't have to be doing it at the same time. SPECT is, you are given IV tracer, and then afterwards you can just take the imaging. So it gives you some time in between that you can do it. So it is not right away during the time you are doing chanting or doing anything specific. So SPECT has been more helpful with this. Now, another thing is the functional imaging. Functional imaging is you see what happens in the brain, EEG-wise or SPECT-wise or something, and see if you say, suppose I talk, what part of the brain changes? Suppose I move my right hand, what happens? What part of the brain changes? So that's called functional imaging of the brain, and see when you can hear talk versus God's name, what kind of change it might happen. There are other things that are very, very kind of difficult to test, is memory, emotion, spirituality, all those things. We don't have objective measure of doing those. So that's hard. I'm going to send some new. So other than those, what else we can do to test? You can be given medication or drug and then see the change in the kind of effect of the drug. Or other one that people had tried earlier was the God helmet. I don't know if you have heard that or not. God helmet is that orange helmet that you see different wires and you put it on, and then it gives very slow, low voltage electric current to your temporal lobe. And it is thought that temporal lobe is the place where you have an abstract kind of thinking about God. So this was in vogue before, that a lot of people use this before. But now it is not proven to be as effective to know particular area of the brain. Other thing is, for the temporal lobe, there is a very specific temporal lobe epilepsy that comes from that lobe only. And those people, those who are during that epileptic episode, they have certain kind of things that happens to you during some of these religious experiences. One of the things is actually speaking in tongue. I mean, during that kind of episode, you may start talking in a language that you have never heard or done before, but then that lobe has some kind of an experience before, we don't know. But so some of these things happen during the religious experiences also to some people. They say that if I chant or if I just dance in front of goddess, then they will have different things coming out of their mouth, and maybe it has kind of affected the temporal lobe. So those are the different ways to see. Now this one I just put in here just to see that, teacher is saying, remember students, science is based on real evidence. And we say all the time that we need evidence, we need real evidence. So that lady goes in and says, you are forgetting the Bible. You must put your faith in God. So we are now here stuck with evidence and faith. And that's what biggest issue is, that faith does not need evidence, and evidence does not work for the faith. So how to kind of combine these two things is a big problem. So now how do these things change your brain? How do these spiritual experiences or practices change your brain? So people have done studies, horizontal study and a longitudinal study. Longitudinal studies mean studies over time. And they did studies in nuns, monks, even actually children who are taught to recite mantras and see how their brain changes. So these are done, and we will go over a few of them, not all of them, but see. So how can you change, or how can you see this change? So first one is the SPECT images of the brain of a kind of person who is atheist, who actually does not believe in God, who says there is just no God. So if you do that SPECT image baseline and then ask them to think about God, even though they don't believe in God, just say think about God, there is not much change in that SPECT. For the SPECT, the red is the highest amount of the blood flow and blue is the lowest amount of the blood flow. So red is too much blood flowing in that area and blue is almost actually no blood flowing in that area. So I would like you to look more at attention part. That is the frontal lobe. So you just look at the top and see there is no change in both sides. Same amount of redness and kind of yellowness. So this one is now done in nuns who have been praying, and they did a scan before and after the prayer, and you can see the change in the prayer scan. In the frontal lobe, you see more red. There is red color popped up instead of staying just yellow like that, actually other one. And also there is increase in the language center. Language center is because when you pray, you are singing, you are saying something that has something to do with the language. So that one also is kind of showing some changes. So there are some definite change depending on what you believe in. So this is those who actually believe in God and then pray. This is what actually you will see. This is the same in another kind of group of people. The other study that has been mentioned many times is the Kirtan Kriya and actually Mudra study. So everybody knows Kirtan Kriya. Kirtan is singing, right? Kriya is doing something. And actually Mudra is hands, that fingers that you put in certain way. And everybody knows mudras when they are kind of actually sitting, praying and pray, you put your hands together. So they did this study in almost like 30 people. They taught them how to do this Kirtan Kriya. Now they have not been exposed to this at all kind of before. So during this time, you have to do actually Kirtan. Kirtan is singing some name, and these were the one that is known, and you will probably see. This is from yoga, actually Kundalini yoga. This one is actually Satnam, and there is a actually special way of saying Satnam, like that you say. But every time you say the word, you change your fingers. Satnam, like that, both hands, and you do this for 12 minutes every day for 12 weeks. I mean, this is actually studies, and what they showed, definite changes in multiple lobes, not just one or two, and it's been thought that the 12 weeks may be an initial time that you can see it, but maybe longer time when they have been doing it, there may be more or different changes. There are other kind of neuropsychological testing that is being done regarding the memory, regarding the language, regarding the speech, and again showing some improvement in those. So first one is a verbal fluency test. Then how many names you can remember? Just we kind of give you 15, 20 names or things, words, and then ask you to just write that down in 60 seconds again. And see that there was an improvement in that score after this kind of practice that you do. The other one was trail test. You know, trail test is where you just connect the dots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 1A, 2B, 3C, like the trail test that you connect the dots in the right way and see the change in that, how fast can you do it. So you have to get it done in less than like actually 100 seconds and see the improvement. And they saw the improvement in that from 107 to, or the trail B test is how fast, so the less time the better, so that you can get done it faster from 107 seconds to 68 seconds. So this do help in some way in your brain. So all these different areas of the brain were affected based on the SPECT. Anterior cingulate gyrus, right prefrontal cortex, right globus pallidus, and midbrain. Midbrain, maybe we think there may be autonomic kind of nervous system part in that. The same thing had done with the meditation. So instead of doing the singing or mantra, you do meditation, and they actually studied those who are used to meditation and those who are not used to meditation. Because those who are used to meditation do it for a long period of time, they have a little bit different outcome. So in the meditation, you can see the same thing in A versus B or C versus D. You see the changes in the amount of the redness in the prefrontal cortex. It becomes more active, and we think meditation is not being active, but that actually makes more blood flow go to the actual frontal cortex, and maybe something to do with that part. Here again, you see the same thing with the meditation. And long-term mediators had a little bit different. There was more of asymmetry in two sides of the brain. Those who had long-term use of the meditation. So the next one is mantra. I mean, you know, that's what we are more kind of used to it. Mantra meditation is you go ahead and chant some mantra all the time, every day for a short period of time. And then see if that changes or helps you. So chanting mantra, this was actually studied in children. They had done a study in actually 30 children, 1 week of training in mantra before. So they are baseline, and then they actually teach them how to sing this mantra. And the mantra used was Gayatri mantra. So everybody is aware of Gayatri mantra. So they taught him how to sing Gayatri mantra or recite Gayatri mantra for 1 week. And then they were asked to kind of recite this every day, except on the weekend. Gayatri mantra. And then they were actually tested again. And then see spatial memory as well as actually change in the verbal memory in both one. Very significant change after 12 weeks. So mantra does do something, and we don't know what part of the brain, but not able to kind of focus on one area, but it will change the spatial memory, and that's where one of the important things about these experiences is spatial memory is, you know, where you are, you know, in space and time. And there are many times who are in meditation or doing this mantra, they get lost in a way. They said, I don't know where I was not here. And maybe it has kind of something to do with that part of the brain which keeps you informed of that you are kind of being where you are. And that's actually parietal lobe. So maybe that affects the parietal lobe. And then you feel that I was away, I was out of this world, I was not in my body. All those different experiences, maybe something to do with that part of the brain getting affected. How does all these things affect the brain? Then how can it affect your bodily functions? That's what we are here to think. That if it affects the brain, will it affect ultimately your health? And so those are changes in autonomic nervous system, we know. It will change your heart rate, blood pressure. And one of the things is the way you say a certain mantra will change vagus nerve. And one of the things is the most common mantra people know and use is Om. Om, A-U-M, Om. When you say Om in a very, very specific way, it will go and stimulate certain part of the throat. That will then actually stimulate vagus nerve. That kind of vagus nerve will alter heart rate and blood pressure. So there is definite things that the way you say, therefore you have to actually recite mantras in a certain way, and they all call it actually Vedic way of doing it, and I am really not sure how to do it, but there are some who do know how to, and we say the singing versus actually reciting mantra in a Vedic way, they do affect autonomic nervous system differently. You see change in the EEG, you see change in the immunologic kind of function, you see change in hormones, especially stress hormones, cortisol, insulin. Those are affected, and we know we can see those changes in the SPECT or functional MRI. So with those changes, it will reduce stress and anxiety. It will reduce blood pressure and heart rate. So another thing is, one thing alone may not work this way, but maybe kind of combination of things will cause all these different kind of changes. Reduce the amount of stress hormone or cortisol that will actually also affect kind of immune function. With those, there will be lower risk of heart disease, stroke, infections, cancer because of immunologic changes, and other kind of chronic disorder which are based on again changes in the immune system. So those are the objective things. Other subjective things that will change. One thing is you will have positive outlook. Swami said before that you have to change your outlook, and you will become more kind of optimistic. Positive outlook, optimism is actually associated with better health overall. Now, not one kind of actually specific thing. Also, being part of the religious or kind of spiritual, actually religious activity, you will have social support network. And you can see this is a social support network. BAPS have such a large social support. If one actual person gets into some kind of trouble problem, there are 100 other people coming and helping. That has actually effect on your health. And previous actually Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, he had said, right now in this country, the problem is social isolation. That's the biggest health problem. Social isolation leads to depression and other issues. And this type of activities takes you away from that isolation. That makes you to have social support group. I think we had talked about actual blue zones before. Those remember blue zone. And one of the things is in Loma Linda, right? I am actually in Loma Linda. Loma Linda is one of those blue zones. And the one big kind of difference compared to other areas, other than diet and actual spiritual activity, is the kind of social support. They all meet once a week, irrespective of what is there. And that day is for kind of meeting friends and family. So having a social support is very important, and maybe this is helping in that part. Third thing is it may reduce high-risk behavior. Because when you do the spiritual activity or the religious activities, you are supposed to stay away from certain things. So say, don't use drugs, don't drink alcohol, no smoking, vegetarian diet. All these things are based on the religious part of it, but it can affect your health. It will help you have a better health, irrespective of whether you kind of believe in God or not. But if you just follow these activities, it will make you a little bit better or more healthy. And we just talk about dietary approach. Hindus, SPAs are in Seventh-day Adventist vegetarian. They have better health. They are more kind of healthy. And overall, improve all-cause mortality. It means not kind of decrease death from one particular disease, decreases overall risk of death from any disease. And improve physical and actual psychological well-being. So we don't need to kind of worry about taking any medication, give me medication, give me medication. We don't need that if you have this. So I just tried to put something just together because we are going to be meet here and stuff. So whatever I could gather in my retired time now, which I don't have much time now after I retired. No, but in just overall kind of actually conclusion, we will never stop about having belief, whether in God or higher power or not, and everybody probably has some kind of belief. But that is important because that belief or kind of thinking about God changes us in many ways that we are not aware, that we cannot kind of calculate or take a picture and get it there. It affects our thoughts, our perception, feelings and behavior ultimately, because that's what we are looking for, is to change our behavior based on these experiences. Now, I didn't talk about actually negative part of thinking about God, because there are some who believe that God gets angry at me and God gives punishment and all those different things. They're not a part of this, they're part of religious kind of experience or kind of practice. And it will affect sometimes negatively. But overall, kind of understanding about that will change the brain, may help us to improve ourselves, just kind of ourselves only, or if we are all are together, then it will affect everybody together globally. So I hope this helps, and I'm not going to take any questions because I don't have any answers. So, thank you. Now we are going to have lunch here. So, if I find somebody, I don't know what time it is. Is it? No, really, if anybody has to comment or say something or their experience, and maybe Ramesh Bhai or other people, those who work with this more or has more experience with this, or who are themselves more spiritual or religious.
This is very interesting that you brought up.
Yeah.
And we know that connection between prayers and, there are big signs, prayers, heal things.
Yeah. Yes.
So
there was that actually study that showed how many believe in God and then how many do prayers. And then the next question was, how many think that prayer changes things or prayer makes you heal? And then there were almost close to half that said that prayer will change serious illness. When the doctors tell you that we have done everything, we can't do anything, and that time they say prayer does help. So I'm not sure, they are not in 100%, there is no way they can direct way of studying it. But yes, there are some kind of people think that if they pray, somebody else might heal. That's what I mean. Yourself praying, yes, we know that it will change stress hormones or different things. It may help your health. But if I pray for you, will it help you? That's what not been studied. But that's what people believe. Any other comments, question?
everybody's hungry for lunch.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's go ahead and if we.
I will.